Hi, I'm Chef Jess and I'm here to teach you how to cook a whole steamed fish. So you can do this in small portions, you can do it in a large portion if you want, but I thought it'd be cool to show you actually how to do it. So you can buy a whole fish from a lot of Asian markets and they'll actually clean it for you. But there's a few things I want you to look for when you're buying whole fish. This is a bad example because the eyes aren't clear, but usually you want the eyes clear. You also want to pick up the gills, and the gills should be red. They've removed the gills already, so that's why you don't see them. But you want a nice like red color. And the last part, which they've also cut off for me, is the tail. Tails of fish that are in farmed places will have been bitten on. And so you'll notice little jagged edges on the side of the tail. A nice fish will have a very pretty tail with no bite marks on it. And so that's usually how you can tell a farmed versus a fresh or a wild fish. And so this guy is ready to go. He's been cleaned, descaled, and you can get this done at any of those, at most of the Asian markets. And so just ask them to do this for you. You can even go ahead and deep fry it if you wanted to, but they can do this to a certain extent. What I don't think you should do is when you get a fish that's this size, to fillet it. It gets hard and you end up wasting a lot of the meat that's in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how you're gonna steam this on your stove, as well as how to steam it in your oven. So a lot of people are like, how do I find a pot big enough for something like this? So I'm gonna show you how to do this in your oven first, but then I'm gonna show you what I did over the stove. So I've got my fish ready to go. If you're afraid of that fishy smell and things like that, go ahead and sprinkle it with a little bit of salt and really rub it in and let it sit for about 10 minutes. Then wash it off and it'll kind of take that fishy smell away from you. But the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna score the top of it. So you're just gonna take your knife and you're just gonna make a few cuts right through the top. Not all the way in, but just enough so that the flavors can get in there too. Now, I'm gonna take my other ingredients. I'm gonna put my fish aside with my fish knife. And I've got ginger and scallions that I'm gonna be working with. For my ginger, I'm gonna just scrape so that I can peel it. And you can add as much or as little as you want. It really depends on what it is that you like. If you like a lot of gingery flavor, then go ahead and cut more. If you just like a little, I go for about 2 tablespoons for a fish this size. And 2 tablespoons of julienne, which is really weird for you to measure anyways. And so if you want, just go for about a knob of it. All right. And then I've got my scallions ready to go too. I'm gonna scrape everything to the side. I'm gonna take my ginger and I'm gonna make slices of ginger first. Thin slices. So I'm gonna hold off on that. That's about enough. And then I'm gonna stack them all together and then I'm gonna go in and cut thin slices, just like that. And a little bit more. Now I'm gonna get my scallions and do the same thing. So I'm gonna set this aside. I'm gonna cut it into about 1.5, 2-inch sections like that first. So I'm gonna line them all up and kind of put them together. And I use whites and greens like they're the same. It's up to you. I like the strong flavor of the white part of the green onion, but some people don't. And so if you don't, or the scallion, whatever you want to call it, if you don't, go ahead and just take it out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm stacking them up and then cutting a julienne out of them. And then when you get a big piece like this, go ahead, cut through the middle and keep going through. All right. You can hold off on some of the scallions and you can do a hot oil pour over the end of it if you really wanted to. And I'll show you that towards the end. All right, so I'm just going in and cutting it. There we go. So you've got a whole bunch of scallions and ginger. Then I'm gonna grab my, push this forward, and there you go. All right, now I'm gonna open this guy up. I'm gonna take half of my ginger and put it in the middle, just like that. And then I'm gonna take my scallions and do the same thing. And put some in the middle, just like that. And then I'm going to show you how you can do this in your oven. I'm gonna grab a piece of parchment paper and a baking sheet. You want your oven at 450 degrees, okay? So you want it pretty high because this is gonna go quick. I'm gonna pick up my fish and I'm gonna lay it right in the middle, just like that. And I'm gonna make sure that I can fold him in. There we go. Yep. I'm just making sure that the size is all right. Ideally, you want, but I don't think this guy will work, so we'll see. So I'm gonna take him and put him on the side like that, and then I'm gonna put more scallion and ginger on top, just like that. Now I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of sugar. I've got light colored soy, so soy that's not really gonna make much color to it, but it's got the flavor, so don't worry. And then I added a little bit of canola or vegetable oil, and then I'm gonna drizzle that right on top, just like that. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper, just a little. And if you have white pepper, that would be even better. Take my gloves off. And then my goal is to be able to wind it together. So it's similar to unpapillote, but because of the size of the parchment paper, it's gonna be a little bit different. So I'm gonna roll and roll and roll, and then you're gonna notice that one side isn't gonna be enough. So go ahead and grab another sheet and roll. So if you notice, what I'm doing is I'm just pinching the edges together, okay? That's all I'm doing, just gathering them together, just like that. And then I've got it on my sheet, ready to go, on my parchment sheet, and you can flip it over if you want. What's gonna happen is the steam is gonna gather inside, and it's gonna steam that fish for you. You don't want it super tight, so you want it to be able to steam, and you wanna do it at a high temperature. So that's why I have it at 450, and that's ready to go then. But say you have a steamer at home, or you don't have a steamer at home, and you wanna use it on the stove. I'm gonna show you what I did on the stove now. So if you look over here, ta-ta, our fish is done, the water is done, and how do I know that fish is done now? I'm gonna grab a pair of chopsticks. This is gonna ruin your fish, so don't do this if you don't want to. But what you're looking for is that it flakes easily. So if I go in there, you can see that it's flaking really nice and easily, and you can go in. Perfect. I shouldn't do that. All right, so let me get a way to get this out, because I wanna show you how I actually made this. So I'm gonna put on some gloves, and I'm gonna get this guy out of here so that I can show you what it looks like underneath. All right, so I'm gonna pick that guy up, and then what you'll see underneath is a ring, and it's a jar ring. So one of those ball rings would work. You can even just create a foil, a piece of foil that's around, and then fill your pan up at least halfway up, and then check on it every once in a while. Because it's such a shallow pan, it tends to cook out quite quickly. You could even put a little coin on the bottom, and once you hear that coin rattling, it means that your fish is ready to go. So that is all. If you want it, you can do it in the oven, or you can do it on your stove. Up to you, but there's 2 ways that you steam fish. See you next time. Bye.